Well, hello and welcome to another episode of In Conversation with Benedict Rogers, an interview series produced by Hong Kong Watch. And I am Benedict Rogers, and it's an enormous pleasure and privilege to welcome as our guest this week someone who needs no introduction, an old friend, a good friend of mine and of so many people, Jimmy Lai from Hong Kong. Jimmy, thank you so much for
Thank you so much for having me. Ben,
it's our pleasure and privilege.
Right.
Jimmy, I wonder if, before we talk about the current situation in Hong Kong, I wonder if you could just share a little bit of your story going back to your childhood. How did you come from being born in mainland China to becoming a leading entrepreneur, a leading pro-democracy voice, the founder of the Apple Daily? What was the journey for you?
Well, I was born in a very rich family. So when the Chinese took over China, my family becomes one of the marginalized class of people. So the family was shattered. My mother went to labor camp, back and forth, quite a few times, and I was, I was very young because I was born in 1947, so I was quite young, and so when I was 9, not even 10 years old, I had to work and to make ends meet because I have a sister who's older than me, but she was as a bit not normal here. So I have a twin sister. So all of us just kids. So I had to make some money every day, to feed the three of us. So I had the opportunity to work in the railway station, carrying baggage for people coming from Hong Kong, mostly. Some are from Macau, but mostly from Hong Kong, just for tips, So this opportunity gave me the real picture of the outside world that was not the same as the CCP was picturing to us. And because I was wearing the old clothing of my father, my brother, those are very expensive clothing, that I look very different from all the other, coolies, all the other, who carry baggages. So I was always urged by the passengers, seeing me as different. They don't know why I was different. Seeing me, I was different, and asked, urged me, hey, why don't you go to Hong Kong? Why do you escape? You're young, there's no future here and all that. And eventually I came to Hong Kong. Eventually I came to Hong Kong by myself when I was 12. Then I worked in Hong Kong, although I was very poor as a child laborer, but I was very happy. I was full of hope. I see all the opportunities. I just felt that I was in heaven. And that freedom of Hong Kong gave me all the opportunity, the education, the experience, and all that has made what I am today. Having a family, a great wife, and all that. That's a place I'm very much indebted to. And so, what I'm doing to Hong Kong is no more than a redemption of my past.
That's amazing. How did you physically come to Hong Kong at the age of 12? How did you?
I actually was smuggled, from the bottom of the fishing boat. Yeah, I was smuggled. Yeah.
Wow. And I read a story that when you came to Hong Kong, you saw chocolate for the first time.
Oh no, I was thinking about leaving, escaping to Hong Kong already, but thinking that because my mother was very worried, she didn't want me to go, although that she knew that there was no future for me in China. but the danger of escaping to Hong Kong is tremendous. But I was, one day I was carrying the baggage for a middle-aged man, and while I was carrying the baggage, he was biting on a bar of chocolate. When we arrived the tricycle, he gave me a little bit tips and hesitated a little bit. And at the end, he gave me the bar of chocolate that he was eating. I turned around and I ate it because I was very hungry. I didn't care about manner. And I asked him what this is. He said, chocolate. I said, shit, this is really good. And I said, where are you from? He said, from Hong Kong. Wow, Hong Kong must be heaven. So that moment, I determined I have to go. That's what I told my mother. I said, Mother, I have to go. Even if it's dangerous, but it is a future I cannot miss. I have to go. So I went.
That's incredible, especially at the age of just 12 years old.
Yeah.
I have a nephew who's well, he's a couple of years younger. He's about 10, but I cannot imagine him going off on his own to on a journey like that.
I have a son who's 13. I can't imagine him doing anything other than taking a train from New York to Yorkshire.
Yes.
From London to Yorkshire.
Yes, absolutely. Jimmy, just coming fast forwarding now to sort of the current times. You founded Apple Daily, which is, as we all know, the only mass circulation Chinese language pro-democracy newspaper in Hong Kong. Could you share a bit about what the vision behind Apple Daily is, why you founded it, and also a little bit about some of the challenges that both you, but also the newspaper as a whole, have faced because of the stand you've taken?
Well, I participated in the June 4th massacre in Tiananmen in 1989. Was it? Yeah, 1989 or 1998? Sorry, 1998. Was it? 1998. Yes.
1989. Yeah.
1989. Yeah, 1989. And I thought there was no way for China to reverse, but continue to liberalize to become one of the open society of the world. So at that time, I was 40 years old. And I have made enough money for somebody who was 40 years old. And I thought that was a great business to go into media business, because by delivering information, you're delivering liberty. And that would be a wonderful business to deliver liberty, for young businessmen. And that's how I went into the media business. I have been wrong. China have not been liberalizing. But I haven't been wrong by choosing this business, because this business really gave me the meaning of work, of life, because being a businessman or being a rich man is very boring. But this media business gave me all the fight, all the reason to fight, the reason to get up in the morning and to do what is in front of me is so interesting, it's so controversial. And I love it. I love it. And of course, being an opposition media, you always have oppositions. You always have to pay a price. There's no free lunch. And we have had advertising embargoes. That's why for a long time, we haven't been profitable. Or so I have to support it with my own money in some way. And also, my journalists, when they go to China, they're being watched or sometimes, detained for a few hours to just update what was Apple Daily doing, the development, what I'm doing and all that. They just get informations, and they they got shut off from a lot of government press conference and all that, you know. Well, a lot of inconvenience, but also because people who are working in our organization have shared the same value and mission, and that make them a very different kind of journalist, because there's no censorship. And they know that they are contributing to the freedom of the society, and that make their life very meaningful and worth working for. Even now, under the national security law, and we were raped like 2.5 months ago, you know, some of the executive was arrested along with me. But the morale is still very high. You know, I have a few, you know, only a few of our staff resigned just because, you know, they got intimidated. But otherwise, we are fighting on, and people are very determined to keep the business going, although we don't know how long we can keep it. You know, under this national security law, and you know, now Hong Kong is all quiet. You know, it's all intimidated. It's not peaceful. It's a silence of suffocation. You know, we are not allowed to have demonstrations, and our pro-democracy legislators, because of the DQ of a few of them, had to resign. So in both the street, no demonstrations, and in the Legislative Council, there's no opposite voice or people to stop bad bills, you know, horrible bills. So Hong Kong is worrying at this moment, because if we don't have news, would the world forget about us? If the world forget about us, we'll be in big trouble, because the world's voice and support is our only saving grace. You know, because the reason we fight is because we share the same value of the free world, of the Western world, which is the legacy of a British colonial past. The British did not give us democracy, but the British gave us the rule of law, the freedom of speech, the private property right, the freedom of assembly, religion, all that freedom institution that we grow up with. And that's why last time I was talking to Lord Patton. He was asking why the young people born after he left are actually fighting for freedom and the value that we share with the West, just because we all live with the institution the British colonial time left behind. And if we fail, if we are defeated, that could be a damage to the credibility of the Western countries' value system. That's why it's very important the world has to know that it is not that we are fighting just for us. We are in the frontier fighting for the value that the free world share with us. And we need them to support us. If we fall, it's like Berlin fall at the time when the Cold War was with Soviet Union. If Berlin falls, the credibility of the American and the European countries' political will to fight Soviet Union will collapse. And there's no way that the eventual victory of the Western country over Soviet Union will prevail. And this is the lesson we have to look back to and learn from. And that's why Hong Kong matters, because we matters as the value holders of the West. We are fighting in the frontier for this value, that we need the value, we need the Western country, the US, the British, you know, the EU countries to have our back.
Absolutely. There's so much in what you've just said that I'd love to unpack, and I, of course, share exactly everything you've just said. Just going back, if I may, before we come on to some of the other issues you've mentioned, going back to Apple Daily, I remember very clearly both the day that you were arrested, the day your newsroom was raided, and as you know, I write on a weekly basis for the English section of the Apple Daily website.
Right.
And
Thank
so,
you.
And so immediately, as soon as I heard the news, I messaged one of your staff that I deal with for my weekly piece to ask, firstly, if she was okay, and secondly, whether she wanted me to continue to write. And I was so inspired and impressed by her immediate reply. She replied saying, "I'm fine." And she said, "Of course we want you to continue. It's business as usual," which was really amazing. But I was also amazed by the scenes of so many Hong Kong people lining the streets to buy copies of the Apple Daily that day. How did you feel when you saw those scenes, despite having been arrested? And
I was very moved. I was very encouraged. And I also realized that the role we are playing, we cannot back down, because Hong Kong people so support us and look up to us. If we back down, they will back down. So there's no way for us to back down, but to continue until we can't continue. You know, we have to keep the integrity and the spirit of the resistance, of the opposition. There's no other way.
Just building on some of the comments you made a moment ago, as you mentioned, you can't have demonstrations. The pro-democracy legislators are no longer in the Legislative Council. We saw this week, firstly, the arrest of 3 of the most prominent young activists, but also the policy address by the chief executive being delivered to a totally quiet pro-Beijing legislature. You've talked about what the international community can do, and we can come back to that. But just in that context, where does the opposition, the democracy movement in Hong Kong itself, go from here, given all the constraints and restrictions that you're under?
I think we will have to be creative. You know, instead of mass demonstration, we can still do demonstration individually. You know, we can be just 4 people walk together with our sign separately, and coming from all over Hong Kong. And we can also organize a civil parliament, you know, a civil legislative council. You know, if we have the support, which we have from the people, we will have the legitimacy of a civil parliament without the endorsement of the government. We can actually, using this parliament, civil parliament, to stop a lot of bad bills, to stop a lot of bad motions and suppression from CCP. If we have the people's support and endorsement, being a civil organization, we can be very powerful. You know, the power is always from the people. It depends on how we organize them. It's not from the, it's not from the power there to be. It's not in the power of the government. It's from the people. All for us is to overcome the fear of being intimidated. If we can overcome the fear and the people share the same sentiment and determination and our will to go forward, we can be very powerful and successful.
Absolutely. You've talked about the importance of the media, the civil society. There's one other institution or place in Hong Kong society that I wonder whether you see as the potential for speaking out on these issues, and that is the church and religion more generally, places of religion. Do you see the possibility that the church and religion more widely can be a voice for the people, or is religious freedom threatened alongside other freedoms?
Well, even the Vatican is not standing up for us. The Vatican hasn't said anything about Hong Kong. So we can see how pathetic the Hong Kong church is under pressure. The cardinal, except Cardinal Sen, who's retired, the cardinal, is doing things that unimaginable. They pro-China, and now they have a very pro-China piece to become the bishop Chai. Everybody knows that he's very pro-China, and he's going to become bishop here. So I think the church is being subdued. I think the church, is being muscled. And even, the cardinal always say that, in the sermon, he advised the priests don't mention anything about politics. Avoid political issues and all that. I can't see the church speaking for the people, except Cardinal Sen. That Cardinal Sen is very brave, courageous, and but no, we can't depend on the church. Not now. We can depend on Jesus. We can't even depend on Vatican. But luckily we have Jesus. We have the Lord with us. Yeah. And the greater suffering, the greater pressure we are under, the closer we feel that we are closing to God. And this is a very good phenomenon. I hope it's not just my feeling, I hope it's a phenomenon of everybody's feeling here.
That's amazing, and that's incredibly inspiring, and it's very true. I think it illustrates that what matters is not the institution of the church, but the faith and spirit.
Yeah.
Just coming back to the international community now, you've said that very clearly that Hong Kong needs the world to firstly not forget Hong Kong, and secondly to act. Are you satisfied? Are you encouraged by what the international community has done so far? And what more do you think the free world can do?
No, I'm very encouraged by the international community support and voicing out for us, but which is also very natural, because they look at us as if we are their own, because the value that we share with them that our pride and suffering so resonate to their heart. They can feel our pain. They can feel, the way we feel just because we share the same value. And this makes it very, very easy for them to support us and very natural for them to voice out for us and to see us as, as kings.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I certainly feel in the last, because of what's happened in Hong Kong and because more and more people outside Hong Kong are speaking up, there's a big difference now compared to a few years ago in terms of attention and interest. And definitely, I will keep doing everything I can outside
thank you.
Hong Kong.
You have done a lot, and we are very grateful here.
Well, it's Hong Kong was once my home, as you know, and so it matters to me because of the values, but it also matters to me because it's a place itself that I love. Let me ask you maybe just a couple more questions. Having had the successful business career that you've had, you could have, at any point up until the time you were arrested, you could have chosen to leave Hong Kong and go anywhere in the world. You could have gone to Taiwan or America or the UK or anywhere else. But you chose not to. You chose to stay in Hong Kong. You faced arrest. What made you do that? And what motivates you, even now, with all the risks that you've faced, to still be talking to me and talking to many other people all the time around the world?
Well, it's very important that we go on and hold on. We uphold the value here. We uphold, our faith and our value, and our fight has to go on. It is my home here. And how can I leave my home? I've been making trouble all this year by opposing evil, by opposing, the dictatorship. How can I jump ship when there's in trouble? When there's in trouble, my role is more important than ever. The greater the danger I am in, the more effective my role is to bring people's attention to Hong Kong and to have Hong Kong people uphold the value and not giving up. The greater the crisis, the more important a role like us to hold on. There's no backing out. Once you back out, you back out forever. There's never an option for me to leave. There's never an option for me to stop accepting interviews, even after the national security law. For me, I have to go on. To back out is to defeat myself. To go on, whatever happened to me is my only destiny.
Well, thank you. I mean, those were incredibly inspiring words, and it's people like you throughout history in so many parts of the world that have led places to freedom because they didn't give up. And I can only imagine if everybody had given up in all the places where people were struggling for freedom, then the world would be completely not free. So
no, I treasure the role I'm being put in. I'm prepared. Whatever comes, I'm prepared to face it. Because I'm so sure that if I suffer, God suffers with me. And if I suffer for the right cause, if I can't accomplish anything, at least I can accomplish becoming a better person. And to be honest with you, the pressure of facing the national security law and all the charges now, I'm I'm having from the police, I'm actually happier than I was ever. I'm so, I'm always in joy. I'm always, thinking that and feeling that everything I'm doing now, God has a part in it. And that's exhilarating. That's great.
Absolutely. That's extraordinary. That's
Yeah.
hugely inspiring. Yeah. Jimmy, let me ask one final question. How do you see the future for Hong Kong, but also for China and for the free world? And what can those of us who live in freedom, I mean, you've already taught us so much in this short interview, but if there's a final word about what those of us who live in freedom can learn from this situation, but also how do you see the future? Are you optimistic or not that one day freedom will prevail?
Well, I'm optimistic. I'm sure freedom will prevail because history is on our side. We might not win this battle, but our fight for freedom will definitely be further and advanced by our fighting for this time. And if our fight for freedom and the rule of law prevail, we will win. It doesn't matter whether we lose this battle. I'm sure the free world have now realized that the conflict of value with China is a very serious matter, because China is so big and enormously powerful economically, and by using its economic power, it can assert its value and behavior to change the rule of the free world. If they can do that, the world will not have peace. And I think the world realized that. And that's why President Trump started the trade war, started the confrontation with China. Initially, no country of his allies has joined him. But now, everyone is joining him slowly and slowly, just because they realize the series of the conscious value of the CCP imposing on them, and how much trouble and disturbance it is to the world peace. But by themselves, they don't have the power to leverage against China. Only if they join the US, they will have the power together to leverage against China and hopefully change China to assimilate into the value and the system of the world. That will be great for the world, and that will be greater for China. I think the world understands that. So I think, yes, temporarily, we might have a confrontation with China. The situation may get worse before it gets better. And I don't see Xi Jinping sitting on top of China for very long, because he has brought China to what it is today, that the whole world is turning against China. And China is having so much trouble domestically. Either because the environmental problem, because the sanction of the technology of trade, that China's economy is sliding down, and because of President for Life, that he has triggered a lot of resistance from his people in the party. So I don't think he's in a good position. You know, if he succeeds, that would be bad news for the world, because he's the most absolute dictator of humanity. Because no dictator has such an economic power before. No dictator had the technology of today that allow him to have electronic surveillance to watch each citizen's voice, action, and movement. You know, he has total control of everybody's personal freedom. There's no dictator in history had such a absolute control on people. And this control could have no repercussion, you know, I don't believe. You know, people are not used to such a control. You know, the repercussion has to come. So I think he's gone to the extreme, and when it's extreme, it's about time to turn. No, I'm very optimistic. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm not pessimistic at all, and I don't see our future under the dictatorship for very long.
Well, that's a very positive and inspiring note to end on. There's an expression that it's always darkest before the dawn.
Right.
And the situation in Hong Kong and in mainland China is getting darker and darker, but we
Right.
can have hope that the dawn will come. And
It will
as
come.
Yeah. And as you say, I mean, I myself noticed this increasing shift in opinion in the rest of the world, certainly in the United States, but even in the UK and in Europe.
Right.
A couple of years ago, when I spoke out on these issues, people in the British government, and not everybody, but many people, regarded me as a nuisance and as a marginal voice. And now they're all saying what I've been saying for many years.
Right.
So
True.
we can have hope there.
Now let's take the Huawei 5G as example. When the US sanctioned it, no other country joined the aid of the party. But now UK, Australia, Germany, and all that, you know, they realize how dangerous CCP is. You know, the infiltration of the technology to gather information in their country is so dangerous. They're now all waking up and stop the Huawei 5G. And you can see that. You know, it will take time for the West to, you know, to wake up, but they are waking up. You know, they're waking up. The appeasement they used to give to China as a strategy to get China to assimilate into the world, hoping that China gets richer, the more will be like the West, is now dash. And I think they are waking up to it, and they are resisting it. And if the West together resist together, I think we can change China. China cannot become an island. They know that. You know, they have to deal with the world, and the world would only allow them to deal with them if they abide by the rules and assimilate into the values.
Well, that's a really important vision, and all I can do, Jimmy, is thank you so much for both your time now, but more importantly for your incredible courage and inspiring leadership. And it's been a privilege to talk to you today. It's a privilege to know you and to have known you for a number of years. And I will keep doing whatever I can.
Thank you so much.
Outside Hong Kong.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, and God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you.